What is up, guys? Frosty 0232 here today with another Frosty Features. Today we have another member of the Invaders team, Iron Fist WW2. So for those of you who haven't been here for Frosty Features before, what this is a comic book background on the toons that you use in Marvel Strike Force. So we typically stick straight to the Marvel 616 if we can. All of Iron Fist World War II actually exists within that Marvel reality, so we're good to go. Let's begin. So, according to Scopely, Iron Fist World War II, after his father's airship crashed into the mythical city of Kunlun, Orson Randall was born into the Lost City and was adopted as a member. In Kunlun, Orson was trained by the Thunderer and educated by UT. Like all destined Iron Fists, Orson fought and killed the fabled Shao-lao, the Undying, receiving the power and scar that would brand him as the immortal Iron Fist. He left Kunlun shortly after becoming Iron Fist and traveled the world fighting tyranny and oppression. During those travels, he joined a group of heroes that included Union Jack. Orson continued his adventures as a hero, fighting against organizations like Hydra, and eventually went to transfer his Iron Fist powers to his successor, Danny Rand. Okay. So that's the blog post. That is who they're telling us Iron Fist World War II is. It is yeah, let's see what I've got. Iron Fist, there he is, the man, the legend, note the guns. Name, Orson Randall, they got that right. First appearance, Immortal Iron Fist #1, 2006. This is not a very old character, 2006. Off the top of my head, he's only in like 20 comics. He's referred to a few times, but there's only so much of him. So if you have something like Marvel Unlimited, it's pretty easy to actually read his entire story. Powers and abilities. He is superhuman, so he is beyond peak in all reflexes, strength, speed, etc. Excuse me. And then chi augmentation and chi healing. A big part of the Iron Fist is being able to focus your chi in different ways and use it to, you can use it to share powers or information. You can use it to, superpower fist attack. You can use it for healing, things like that. Yeah, pretty kind of baseline powers, really. Aliases, no duel. He is Iron Fist and he is only known as the Iron Fist, right? And as a reminder, for those of you who may or may not know, I'm going to talk a little bit generally about what an Iron Fist is. But so Iron Fist is a mantle that is taken up by a person. So there's multiple Iron Fists. It's not necessarily a legacy hero, because a legacy is one that gets passed down. This is sort of a mantle that is earned. Yeah. Affiliations, Freedom's 5, Immortal Weapons, Confederates of the Curious. So in the blog post, so to point this out, Iron Fist is not involved with the Invaders because Iron Fist really doesn't fight in World War II. That's one of the biggest problems I have with this character. He is around in World War II, but he does all his fighting in World War I, right? So he's actually a part of the Confederates of the Curious. So if you watch, and quick plug, Frosty Features Bucky Barnes, or Frosty Features Captain America World War II, I talk about how the Invaders are essentially the model with which the Avengers is based off of. The Invaders is based off of the Confederates of the Curious. So that it will always do that all the way back to the BC times. But so the Confederates of the Curious is a World War I team where that's where you see Iron Fist and Union Jack working together, not the Invaders. This Iron Fist was not a part of the Invaders for a very, very, very big reason we'll talk about in a second. He also is a part of the Freedom's 5, and part of the Freedom's 5, and then he's part of the Immortal Weapons. The Immortal Weapons being, there are 7 mythical cities, 6 other than Kunlun, and each one has essentially a champion. So these 7 champions together are known as the Immortal Weapons, which is also kind of with the tag the Immortal Iron Fist, right? So it all kind of comes together, in one way or the other. Okay, next up. Background, Kunlun native. So to put this in perspective, Orson Randall is from the late 1800s, right? So he came in he came in. His father is essentially a technical genius. Think Howard Stark kind of level. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, and so Kunlun, this mythical city, it appears on Earth's like physical plane, more or less, like once every few thousand years. And in that very short period of time that it was on Earth, Orson Randall is in his mother still. His mom's pregnant, and Phineas Randall is flying his like warship, or not a warship. It's just essentially it's just a balloon that he's trying to like live in or whatever, and he crashes it into Kunlun. Just so happened at the time that it's on Earth, so when it pops back into its sort of like ethereal plane existence, they're kind of stuck there. So so it's tough to say. Also, Orson's mother is never named in the comics, but ultimately they survive. Phineas and his mother, mother and father, survived the crash, and his mother dies in childbirth, and so being a native there, Phineas uses the time to like expand his tech knowledge, and Iron Fist is schooled and taught how to fight in Kunlun from birth, right? Which kind of leads to him, becoming the Iron Fist. He's trained under the Thunderer, as I spoke about before. The Thunderer, namely, just for context, his name is Lei Kung. But yes, so he is actually Kunlun native, and he is not from the World War II era. He's from the late 1800s. He is alive during the World War II era, and we will talk about that in a second. Who died? You can't be a superhero without a bunch of people dying. His mother died in childbirth. That is pretty much it. Outside of that, he's trained as a resident of Kunlun, trained in many types of martial arts, and then he ends up fighting Shao-lao, the dragon. Addictions. So here's where this stuff gets kind of twisted, right? So, the whole thing about Iron Fists, right? Iron Fists get the power, and they're the champion of Kunlun. They're there to protect them. But Iron Fists really like to become Iron Fists and leave. And it's always a big deal. They're like, you can't leave, blah, 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 blah. But I don't want to make a bold statement. Most Iron Fists leave. Like, most Iron Fists fly the coop. It's just what happens. So Iron Fist, this one, Orson Randall, he gets his power and he flies the coop, and it's World War I. And he goes out and he's fighting in World War I, and he sees so much death and brutality and things like that he kind of becomes almost a pacifist. It's pretty hard to be a martial artist pacifist who's aggressively fighting people all the time, but he begins to abhor violence 100%. So he gets so utterly scarred by the things he sees in World War I that he dives deeply into like opium tents and alcohol, and kind of becomes this like just horribly addicted, horribly drunk, like just absolutely a victim of his own vices. He completely useless, can't do anything really, which plays into a lot of the stories. So when I wanted to bring this up now, because when I start talking about the notable events in comics, most of it is him coming out of a bender or something, right? So the big thing about this Iron Fist is he is very, very heavily addicted to opium. It's gonna come up a bunch. Another thing, so Wendell Rand. So the Iron Fist that most people are associate with Iron Fist is Danny Rand. So in his Iron Fist adventures with the Confederates of the Curious, he ends up becoming like horribly injured in like South Africa, and this kid finds him and kind of nurses him back to health or whatever, and then Orson takes him under his wing and like trains him in martial arts and stuff like that. This ends up being Wendell Rand, who ends up becoming Danny Rand's father, right? So Iron Fist, so he takes Wendell Rand under his wing, so more like an adopted son. So by that association, Orson Randall is actually sort of Danny Rand's adopted grandfather, kind of. So anyway, yeah. So because what the Wendell Rand thing's really important too, because I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But there's also this thing where like I said, there's not many stories with Orson Randall, but 2 of them specifically are people getting really mad at Orson and they're going to go kill him. And then they find him and he's just really drunk and high. And they're like, you're pathetic. I just can't, I'm not going to kill you. You're already dead, you know? So they leave him. Wendell is one of them. Wendell gets mad. He enables Wendell to go back to Kunlun, and then he lets Wendell essentially gets to the point where he can challenge for the powers of the Iron Fist, and then he ends up leaving. He didn't feel like he was ready for it, and to kind of prove himself, he goes and he's like, I'm gonna kill Orson, and he finds Orson, and he's wasted out of his mind, and he was like, you're not worth the time, and he ends up Orson's like, hey, do whatever you want to me, but you need to know that you are going to be the father of the greatest Iron Fist. And, the prophecy comes true. Oh my God. All right. Relationships. Phineas Randall, father. Unnamed mother. Wendell Rand, we just talked about it, is the ward. And Lei Kung is his mentor. Lei Kung is involved in almost every story with Orson Randall, as far as I've read. So important to note. Notable events. Tournament of the Heavenly Cities. So I talked about there's 7 heavenly cities, and every 300 years they have a tournament. Kind of think Mortal Kombat. And so this tournament comes up after World War I, in this situation where Orson has already dove into opium. He's a drunkard, whatever, and he's run away from Kunlun, but a representative finds him and is like, hey, you need to come fight in this tournament. And he's like, I'm not fighting anymore. It's not a thing. I'm not going to do it. So in response, the way that everything sort of reacts to that is that the other cities send their champions all to get to work as a team to go and he either needs to come fight. They give him an ultimatum: come fight in the tournament, or give up your powers as Iron Fist. So the 6 other champions kind of come track him down, and once again on a bender, whatever. But so they went, and he refuses, and so they attack him. And in his kind of stupor, he attacks back, but he doesn't hold back, and he accidentally kills one of the other champions. And this tournament, they're not supposed to kill each other. It's just kind of to show who's the best. So he ends up just straight up killing one of the other ones. And so they sort of parted, and then Kunlun is like, Thunderer, you taught this guy. Thunderer is noted as the best martial artist in Kunlun. And so they send the Thunderer to go and kill Orson Randall. And so Orson Randall seeks him out. It's kind of like what I talked about with Wendell Rand earlier. Orson Randall seeks him out, the Thunderer seeks him out. Lei Kung seeks him out to kill him, and he gets there, and he sees, like, he's wasted out of his mind. He can barely talk, can't even move, and he's like, "You're already dead." He's like, "You're already dead," and so he leaves him out of pity, and he leaves him out of pity, right? And he returns to Kunlun, and he's like, Orson's dead. Don't worry about him. Don't look for him. Whatever, right? So with that, we move on to Death of an Immortal. So in the blog post, it's referenced that he passes his powers to Danny Rand. That does happen, but it doesn't quite happen the way you think it does. So with Iron Fists, typically there is a point where an Iron Fist turns 33 years old, and this monster called a Qilin will seek out the Iron Fist and eat them, kill them, eat them, whatever, and all this to gain this power so that it can eat these eggs, which Shao-lao is like born into. It's a whole thing. But typically your Iron Fists don't live past 33 because of this. But because Orson Randall, so this is, by the way, when I say that he really didn't do anything in World War II, he was alive and whatever during World War II, but he was so sloshed and messed up out of his mind that his chi was so low and hidden that the Qilin never found him. So he lived past 33. So he ends up becoming this old guy that still has access to Shao-lao's chi. He still has access to the Iron Fist powers, even though he's sort of just kind of this really messed up individual, right? This really unfortunate guy. So with his death, essentially, the city in which Orson accidentally killed the champion, they want revenge. The kind of head of it, her name is Mother Crane. So she sends this she sends an assassin known as Steel Serpent, who is the new champion of the thing, to kill Orson Randall. And so Orson's kind of pulled out of his opium tent or whatever, and he has to kind of fight. And in doing so, he learns that there's a new Iron Fist. It's Danny Rand, whatever. So he's like, well, I need to go meet this dude, because the big thing with Orson, when he thought that the way the Iron Fist situation worked was so awful, he stole these things called the Books of Iron Fist, which give all of the history of the previous Iron Fist to the current Iron Fist, because he wanted to stop another Iron Fist from coming. But since it came, and the Steel Serpent came, so he knew that the Tournament of Heavenly Cities is coming back again. So, because the last one never happened, right? So he, with all that, he realizes this is happening, and he knows they're going to come to the new Iron Fist. So he has to seek out Danny Rand to essentially give him the opportunity to be able, if he does this tournament, he's like, I need to make sure that he survives. So he goes to Danny Rand to give him these books, and then they're attacked by Steel Serpent and Hydra. And the Steel Serpent's like, okay, Orson, I'm gonna kill you, I'm supposed to. And Orson he's old, and he is strung out, right? But he still, also another thing is, Danny could, after Orson kind of came out of like hiding or whatever you want to call it, his situation, in using Shao-lao's chi, Danny could detect it. So they were kind of looking for each other for a while. But anyway, so Steel Serpent kind of follows them. So he hands off the book, and so they're fighting together. They're fighting all these Hydra agents or whatever. And it kind of comes down to Steel Serpent versus Orson, and Orson knows he can't win. Like, even with Shao-lao's power, he knows he can't. So he sort of does what he can, but he knows he's gonna die. And as he's about to die, him and Danny are getting freaking destroyed, and it's not looking good. And so ultimately, the way the Iron Fist gets their power is they fight a dragon, and what they do is essentially they punch a hole in the dragon, and they absorb his chi. So Orson's like, Danny, like, you gotta take my chi. And Danny's like, that's really violent and uncomfortable, but all right. And so he kind of punches into Orson and takes his chi, and Orson dies. It's sort of a sacrifice play. The way I described it's a lot more brutal probably than it's actually depicted, but still, that's what happens. He kills Orson Randall and takes his chi and becomes that much stronger of an Iron Fist. So, but that's how he dies, because he probably was one of the oldest Iron Fists to ever live. So, yeah, yep, he ends up dying, and then Danny, fights off everybody, because now he's like superpower Iron Fist, which is cool. But yeah, super cool arcs with Orson Randall. They're very dark though, so beware when if you choose to dive in. Power level. MSF doesn't care about power levels, but on Frosty Features we do. A multiversal power level means that you are capable of ending reality not only as we know it, but as everyone knows it. You can end the multiverse at whim. Universal means you are strong enough maybe to end your reality, hop on over to another one, and end it. Cosmic means that you are a threat on the small end on a planetary scale, and with enough time and effort, you could probably take out something like a galaxy or a small solar system. Nuclear means you have the power equivalent to that of a nuclear bomb. You could level small cities up to a small planetary body. Super Soldier, you are beyond all capabilities of a regular human being, super strength, super speed, etc. City level means you are a person who is at the peak of the human level, and you are extraordinarily trained, etc. to you're highly trained. Think your assassins. There's quite a few. City's a very popular one. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian that is in Marvel Strike Force that Hela spawns, and for all intents and purposes, he's not that strong, right? So with Greg, for the sake of argument, as you know, He's a dead Asgardian, but still, for the sake of argument, we're putting him at regular person strength, just a regular human on the street. And if I had a garbage can lid and a broomstick, I theoretically could kill Greg. Right? So in the case of Orson Randall, Iron Fist, or in MSF's case, Iron Fist World War II, his power level is at the super soldier level. Their punches are quite good. They could probably punch up into the nuclear level, but Orson himself really doesn't do the famous Iron Fist punch. Orson's more of a guns blazing kind of guy. Really doesn't use the Iron Fist as much as Danny does. And typically you see Orson depicted with guns. And that's because of his wartime situation. But yes, so firmly cemented in that super soldier kind of point, kind of honestly on the lower end of super soldier. The range is kind of wide there, but yes, so that's kind of where we're at. And then according to Scopely, so they really didn't say anything about the character at all, other than that he lived in Kunlun. They don't say anything that's just outwardly wrong, other than he was there during World War II. He had events happen in World War II. He did not actively fight in it like he did World War I. He is a World War I character. So the name in itself is pretty wrong, right? It would have been better if they would have called him, I don't know. I don't know. The Immortal Iron Fist, or Iron Fist Orson, or just called him Orson Randall Iron Fist. I don't know. But anyway, Iron Fist World War II or World War I would have been fine. He's also not part of the Invaders. Scopely is just known for adding tags to things that don't make sense. This is just another one of those. And then just kind of giving us, I just feel like everything they said in this blog post is an extreme understatement. It's very generalized. You get nothing about who the character is other than the fact that he is an Iron Fist, right? So honestly, I don't think Scopely even tried. They didn't care enough to read about Orson. They took the beginning of what was there and just wrote it down. So that's what it is. And that is Frosty Features Iron Fist World War II. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel out so much. And it doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks. And also, as a reminder, I stream at the link above on Twitch Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we do Frosty Features live there. Yeah, so thank you all so much for hanging out with me and going through that. And I hope you all have a fantastic week. And most importantly, y'all, stay cool.